Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ENVIS webinar session. So today we have with us Dr. Hishmi Jamil Hussain. So he's trying to share with us on ecosystem restoration to meet Agenda 2030 and also the initiatives that he has carried out at Tata Steel Company. So this is the webinar conducted under Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat initiative. So Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat initiative, which mainly enhances the interaction among the states as well as union territories to exchange the knowledge on environment as well as culture and also tourism and also the religious practices. So this webinar mainly talks about the environmental protection within the Tata Steels and also the sustainable developmental goals and also the agenda for 2030. So I feel my pleasure to my privilege to invite Dr. Hishmi. So he's also a notable alumni from International Institute of Social Sciences, Social Studies, and also from the Erasmus University. And he has extensively worked on the concepts of biodiversity conservation, sustainable development, and water management. So his research includes mainly focusing on the areas for the biodiversity conservation. He is also the IUCN Commission member, and also he is the think tank from the environmental development, and also he has been received the Best Scientist Award in the year 2020, and also he is a lead author for Asia Pacific Assessment on Biodiversity Assessment and by the International Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform Biodiversity Ecosystem Services, and he is also a member of he's also elected fellow of the Linen Society of London and member of Club of Rome. He's a board of several national and international bodies. He's a visiting faculty and distinguished speaker from India and on the biodiversity conservation, water management and sustainable development and legal compliance, social corporate responsibility and environmental management. He's also in advisory board of many committees. He's also currently worked in Indian Council for Forestry Research Education, Ministry of Environment Forestry, Government of India, and also he worked in Amity University and Rio Tinto. He has delivered the various talks on the ecosystem conservation. So he has written 2 books and also several papers and also more than 160 articles in the national and international journals. So I thank from behalf of ENVIS Indian Institute of Science research partner. So to deliver a talk on ecosystem restoration to meet Agenda 2030, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bharat. Thank you, ENVIS Center at ASC Bangalore. Good evening to all. In next 60 minutes, I am going to talk one of a very, very burning topic, the ecosystem restoration. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yes, sir.
So in the next 1 hour, I will try to explain you that why the whole world is talking about the ecosystem restoration, what is happening around the biodiversity. I will talk about that what are the initiatives we can do as an individual so we can restore this Mother Earth. I will also speak about the Sustainable Development Goal, the Agenda 2030, which has been started in 2015 by the United Nations to achieve 17 goals. I will also briefly talk as a individual how you can contribute for conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem. Many times it happens that we deliver the talks, but the attendee did not find anything for their personal use. They find it is useful for the government, they find it is useful for the business, but how individually they can contribute. So I will also briefly talk about these initiatives. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is something that the whole world is now aware about it, that there is a dangerous decline of the nature. The species extinction rate is very, very accelerating. Whatever globally we are doing, it is insufficient. We need some of very, very strong transformative changes if we want to restore the Mother Earth. Almost 1 million species about to extinct. Now you try to understand that whole Mother Earth is having 8.5 million species and 1 million species are having a fear or threat to extinct. Then we need to do something very, very strong. Then we need to do something which can help in conservation of Mother Earth. Can we go to the next slide, please? Globally, some of the researches has been done, and we come to a conclusion that by 2050, now you can correlate why there is a global commitment of 2050. Recently, the COP26 has been happening. There is a net zero target 2050. The whole world is talking. The India is committed to achieve it by 2070. So now try to understand and build this story in your mind that why the 2050 is important. So globally, the research has been done, and it was identified that the human civilization will be crumbled by 2050 if we are not taking sufficient actions to stop the climate change which is happening. The climate change which is happening, which is very, very fast. The recent IPCC report, the sixth report, has clearly indicated that whatever we are doing, it is not sufficient. We need to take some strong actions around it. The government need to take a strong pledge around it. Then only we can reduce the Mother Earth temperature less than 1.5 degrees centigrade. If we are not able to achieve this global temperature less than 1.5 degree, there are so many things will be happening around us. Some of the examples I am sharing with you. Can we go to the next slide, please? So you can see one of a very classical example. This is the polar bear. The health of this polar bear was so good in 2009. In now 2019, you can see because of heat, the temperature, the health is deteriorating. It is impacting the wildlife globally. It is impacting the human health globally if we are not going to control the temperature rise with our actions. Can we go to the next slide, please? Wildfires. This is the phenomena which is not so frequently occur, but now it is something very, very common. Recent fires in Russia, you have seen recent fire in Canada. So all these fires basically happening because the temperature of the Mother Earth is increasing. The fires in Amazon, the fire in Australia, you perhaps now correlate that how these fires are directly impacting the biodiversity. When this fire is happening, there is a lot of area is destroying. There is a million of the wildlife are killing. Their human lives are killing. There is a loss to the economy. That's why it is very important to understand why these the frequency of these forest fires is increasing, and these are directly related with the biodiversity loss. Can we go to the next slide, please? Another very specific phenomena is happening in our sea. The seawater bleaching is happening. These coral reefs, which are very important in absorbing the carbon dioxide, now these are reducing. And this phenomena is happening because of increasing in temperature. Whenever the increase in temperature is recorded, the salinity of the water has increased and they start bleaching or they start dissolving these coral reefs. You can see these two pictures that how much diversified these coral reefs were in the past, and now you can see the color is vanishing because the bleaching is happening, and these are directly the biodiversity loss is happening in the Mother Earth. Can we go to the next slide, please? So there is a modeling has been done, and IPCC report is also shown different scenario. One scenario when the global temperature will be less than 1.5 degree, and the another scenario is when the global temperature is more than 1.5 degree. So you perhaps seen that if and there is a modeling which has depicting that by 2100, if the global temperature will increase up to 1.5 degree, 70% of these coral reefs will be vanished from Mother Earth. And if this temperature will increase more than 1.5 degrees centigrade, then almost all these coral reefs will be bleached out from the Mother Earth. Now you can understand that if this frequency is so fast, if in a small time frame we are having such kind of losses, and we are going towards a very, very strong notation that it is a starting point of the sixth great mass extinction. You as a student of science or geology or policymaker, you perhaps read about the past five mass extinction, how this mass extinction has happened and how these species has been vanished from the Mother Earth. When more than 60% to 80% species are vanished from the Mother Earth, it is called the mass extinction. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is another research has been published in 2011. This picture can clearly indicate you, and you will correlate the importance of what is happening around us. The COVID-19 is something that now we everyone is talking about the biodiversity, and that can correlate a small virus which can destroy the whole Mother Earth, which can destroy the economy, which can destroy the employment, which can destroy so many lives around the globe. So zoonosis is a process where the diseases from animals to the jump to the human being, and COVID-19 is one of the example of the zoonosis. Now, this picture you can see on your left hand side that the 99% of this Mother Earth was covered by the wildlife, and human being was only 1% covering 10,000 years before. And as on date, you perhaps see that the 32% Mother Earth is covered by the human being, 1% only wildlife is covering, and 87 and 67% is covered by the livestock. If such kind of great drastic distribution is changing, definitely it will impact our lives. Definitely it will impact the biodiversity and the ecosystem. And the whole changes, whatever is happening on this Mother Earth, it is because we are destroying the ecosystem around us. Can we go to the next slide, please? There are some examples you perhaps correlate that IPBS assessment has been done from 2015 to 2019. The report has come, and IPBS assessment was basically a indication and eye opener for the policymaker. I was one of the lead author from Asia Pacific, so I can speak on these statistics more confidently that I was part of that research. So almost one third of the world topsoil has been degraded, and 1/7 of the Amazon forest has been lost in the last 50 years, and almost 88,000 square kilometer of forest we are losing every year. So the terrestrial ecosystem is very badly destroying or disturbing because of human interventions. Now try to correlate the oxygen we are getting from the forest, and this forest is now destroying. You perhaps read in the books that the Amazon jungles or the forest are the lungs for the Mother Earth, and these lungs are now destroying and reducing every year. 85% of the wetland has been reduced or vanished in last 300 years. And these wetlands are not just the wetland; these are the kidney for the Mother Earth. Now you can think that if my kidneys and my lungs are not working, how I can survive? So my survival will be questionable if I am not considering the conservation of the terrestrial ecosystem. Another very important ecosystem is the oceanic ecosystem. So we have understand that the monetary value in a simple way. When we are talking in terms of dollars, then we see that it is a very high value. Until and unless, so that was one of the attempt has been done. The Das Gupta review, it is one of the recent work has been done to understand that how much important is the biodiversity and how much it is contributing for the economy, and how the businesses, how the government can take the decisions where they can think and they can allocate the money for conservation of the biodiversity. So 55% of the ocean area now, which is covering with the industrial fishing. You can understand that the industrial fishing is damaging to the oceans, to the ecosystem. 33% overstocking we are doing because we want to get more returns, and 50% of the world coral reef system has been destroyed. If we are talking in terms of the species, you perhaps know that the 83% of the population of the freshwater species has been reduced since 1970. Almost 36% of the bee population has been reduced. These pollinators are very important for our food security. If we understand that 90% of the flowering is happening because of the pollinators, then we can understand that these pollinators are not just giving us the honeybee. These are very important, essential part of our ecosystem and our food chain. 60% of the population, now you can understand when there is a reduce in the area covered by them, there is a reduction in the population, and 60% of the wildlife population has been reduced. These are some numbers which I want to share with you, which can help you to correlate and build a story that why the world is talking about the biodiversity conservation, why the world is talking about the ecosystem restoration. Can we go to the next slide? some of the numbers, these numbers are just for understanding as a individual, because as a human being we understand the monetary value. So just try to explain you the ecosystem services we receive, the oxygen, water, so many goods and services from the biodiversity from the forest. So since 2000 until the 2010 we have lost almost 50 billion. So the cumulative, if you do this, there is a long complex uh, uh, analysis has been done, and these numbers came 500 billion. And the lost, which the same speed we are having similar kind of loss of the biodiversity, so almost 275 billion dollar per year loss of the in terms of monetary value will be happen. And if the same cumulative loss will be happen, it will impact 7% growth of the GDP. Now GDP is very simply understand, because in economics, the people, news, media, everywhere we are talking about the GDP loss, we are talking about the employment loss. Very few people talk about the biodiversity loss. Not many channels speak about the biodiversity loss. I'm thankful to the ENVIS, and ENVIS is one of a great platform which talk and increase the awareness among the people that how we can conserve the biodiversity. And you can see that unsustainable fishing, which is happening, people are claiming and doing it, and there is the output. So now you can understand 50 billion USD per year of from this fishing. Can we go to the next slide, please? So some of very clear reasons of biodiversity loss. The important uh, reason is land use change, that urbanization is happening, industrialization is happening. There is a change in the forest land to the agriculture land. Agriculture land is changing to the industrial land. In for other activity, mining and other construction activity, even the forest land is converted to the other land use. Over exploitation is another issue which is impacting the biodiversity, because our consumption has increased significantly since 1980. Our consumption, per capita consumption, has increased more than 1.5. Agriculture intensification, the population is growing, so we need more food, more chemicals are using, so there is an intensification in the agriculture. Pollution is very seriously impacting to the aquatic biodiversity, the biodiversity which is very since very susceptible, or which has impacted because of the pollutant, the invasive species. Because of this global nature, people are traveling one place to other place. Similarly, now the invasive species, which species are growing to the other area, and they are not allowing the local species to grow. The climate change is another factor which is very badly impacting the biodiversity. Can we go to the next slide? So we need air to breathe as an individual, we need water to drink, we need food for life and human health. So these are the four things I think the COVID-19 has clearly has told us, that we must having a good health, our immunity should be good, our lungs must be strong enough. So in case we are having infection, we can fight with the COVID-19. Good food, the water, and the human health. All these things are essentially required, and all these things we are getting from the Mother Earth in the form of the biodiversity. And biodiversity and the forest and the ecosystems are providing all these things to it. Can we go to the next slide, please? This slide clearly explain you that how this there is a linkage between the biodiversity loss and how there is a linkage in the climate change. So when there is a biodiversity loss is happening, the severity of the climate change is very strong. So it is impacting the goods and services. You perhaps remember when the tsunami has come in 2005, the coast which were having the good forest of around it, they were able to protect all this coast, and the coast which were not having a forest, which were not having a their good plantation around it, they were badly impacted. The frequency of this climatic cyclones in India has increased. You perhaps know that in the past it happened one or two cyclone in 1 year or 2 years. Now the frequency more than 10 cyclones you are facing because of the climate change. The climate change is definitely disturbing the resilient society which was in the past. The carbon cycle and the water cycle. These are the two important cycles which are disturbing. For our survival, we understand that the origin of life has been happening in the water, and the carbon cycle is again very important. The absorption of the carbon dioxide with the help of trees and other biodiversity, it helps in reducing the temperature, and these two cycles are disturbing very badly, and this is the reason that the whole human society is suffering very badly. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm taking a pause. If Dr. Bharat, you got any question in between, so I will address it, otherwise I will go to the next slide.
Yes, sir. We have two questions. Uh, One is from Varun Sharma. Sir, what's your opinion on current environmental policies in India?
Okay, and what is the next question?
Next question is he again poses on the same similar lines. Can you provide the strategies needed to be adopted by India for achieving SDGs? Whether our current initiatives are sufficient to meet the goals?
So Varun, I think you asked some very pertinent question that uh, how the Indian policies are around. So I want to tell you that I have done this research when I was a student at EPFL Lausanne. My research was on e-governance model for environment decision making in mining for India. And what I found, the policies and the legislations are the strongest in India. If I'm talking about the Wildlife Protection Act, if I am talking about the Forest Act of India 1980, if I am talking about the Environment Act, so all these act and policies are very, very stringent. And that is the reason that there is a lot of delay whenever someone is going to take the permission. So in terms of law and the legislation, we are on the top of the pyramid, if I will say. We are much better than the legislations are in the Western world as well as in the Eastern world. So I have done this all comparative research. So we are the stringent legislation around us. Your second question about the progress and our our focus on the SDGs. So I suggest you to read the report, a recent report given by the Niti Aayog on the status of the SDGs in India. So in one line, we are progressing in a very, I would say we are in some of the targets, we are very good. Some of the states like Kerala, they are doing very good. So you can get the whole list of the states that how we are performing in terms of SDG. I also want to tell that this Agenda 2030, which is basically originated from the Millennium Development Goal. You perhaps know that in 2005, the United Nations came for the Millennium Development Goal, the 10-year agenda, that how the 8 Millennium Development Goals are allowing. But this the Agenda 2030, which has come in 2015, they are very simple in terms of engagement, in terms of engaging to the corporate and the various stakeholders. Me and you can contribute for the Agenda 2030. So can we go to the next slide? I hope I am able to respond to Varun question. Can we go
Yeah,
to the
yes,
next
sir,
slide,
yes, sir,
please?
yes, sir. Yeah, we will continue, sir. I will
Yeah.
just share this.
So Varun, now with this analysis also you can get some more insight. So these targets are basically how we are progressing. These are targets to tackle the world most pressing social, economic, and environmental problem. When we are talking about the sustainability, it is the reason that the whole world, when I'm talking about the conservation, I forgot about the economics. When I'm talking about the economical growth, I'm forgetting about the social development. When I'm talking about the social development, I'm not talking about the economic growth. But for the sustainability, for the progress, for achieving the Agenda 2030, these are the 17 goals. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, the quality education, gender equality, clean water. So if you talk about and see all these targets across these 17 SDGs, these are linked to each other. If we are able to provide no poverty, if we are focusing on the no poverty as an individual, as a state, as a corporate, as a in what capacity we are as a stakeholder. So if we are working for achieving the no poverty, definitely it will impact the zero hunger. When there is a zero hunger, definitely the good health and the well-being will become. When we are having a good health and the well-being, then definitely we will be focused on the quality education. When we are the educated, we will having a gender equality, we will respect all the people. When we are having a gender equality, then we will also think about the clean water and the sanitation. And that is the good thing about the agenda 2030. And all these goals has been formulated by analyzing and engaging all the stakeholders. It is not something that I have studied in Netherlands at the Hague, the ISS. It's called the Makkah of Development Studies, and that is the premier institute which is engaging to all the stakeholders to talking about the development for the poorest of the poor, with the highest knowledgeable people who are sitting in the top position in the World Bank, in government. And these people now got awareness about the grassroots level things, and they are formulating such kind of the frameworks and the policies. The Human Development Index, the HDI, on the same way has been formulated by the same people, and the same people and the same foundation has been used for developing the Agenda 2030. And the most important thing, these are the time bound, that you have to achieve a particular target in a time bound fashion. That's why it is called the Agenda 2030. Can we go to the next slide, please? So now you will be more clear with this mapping. So I'm more talking about the SDG 14 and 15 because these are related with the ecosystem restoration. And if I am able to restore the ecosystem, and if I'm able to conserve the biodiversity, these two SDGs, if we are focusing on these two SDGs, because it happens that many times people say that my area of work is social development, my area of work is agriculture, my area of work is corporate, my area of work uh, is finance. So, but when you are talking about these SDGs, in SDG, all, even the technology company can contribute, banks can contribute, the governments can contribute, whosoever is there in which position they can contribute. How they can contribute? Because when we are talking about the water, when we are talking about the affordable clean energy technology, so now the renewable things, the climate actions, the peace and justice. So all these are the result of the holistic approach or the integration of the SDGs. So once we are talking about the pivot of the SDGs, we are having a clear understanding that how the life below water and life on land, if we are able to focus on these two SDGs, definitely the other SDGs around it will also got the impact. And that mapping is very simple, that if we are having a good forest, the people who are dependent on the forest, they can get the good food. So zero hunger will be achieved. If they are getting regular food, good health. As I explained you, if we are having water bodies around us, which are having good ecosystem, so definitely these water body play important role as kidney for us, they clean the water. So if we are having affordable and the clean energy, we will not cut these forests. So definitely the forest conservation will be happen, and we will not be dependent on the resources which are damaging to the forest. Decent work, the economic growth, the climate action. So if we are doing a forestation, if we are having a nature-based solution, doing the plantation, so definitely we are combating with the climate change, reducing the temperature of the mother with the help of plantation and nature-based solution kind of thing, and it is helping to achieve the climate action. Peace and justice. So definitely you have perhaps seen some of the classical example, the whole world. I will talk about the joint forest management in India. So the joint forest management got a good success in those areas where the people have participated, where there is a good engagement with all the stakeholders. Within India, the famous case of Sukumajiri, which is successful case of the joint forest management. In the same way, in other places where there was not a peace, where there was not engaged, the program has not got success. So many of these conservation initiative got success when there is a peace, when there is a harmony among the communities. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this picture again give you more clarity about that how well we are placed and how that help in managing the environmental crisis. This biodiversity loss is basically an environmental crisis which is happening globally, and we understand that these SDGs, if you see the four SDGs which are contributing towards the biosphere, so SDG 14, 15, 6, and 13, as I explained you, that how they are connecting. If we have conserved the biodiversity, the foundation of society is there, no poverty, zero hunger. So when we are contributing to the four SDGs, it will contribute to the further eight SDGs. When these eight SDGs will be will get success or progress, so definitely the economic growth will be happen, and we will reach to a situation where we are having a healthy ecosystem. So well-being and all the things, the nature, this is basically for important for our survival. As I explain you, the researches has been done. The human civilization will be crumbled by 2050. We are not taking the corrective action. There is a research which is indicating that the sixth mass extinction has already been started if we are not conserving the biodiversity. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is for the academic purpose for the researchers, so they can understand now when there is a risk because of activity, there is a opportunity also. We know if we are doing the mining, if we are constructing the road, so it is there is a loss to the biodiversity. On the other hand, there is a opportunity to conserve the biodiversity. So as per the Wildlife Act of India, 1972, the species which are Schedule 1, if these species are found in the area where you are doing your activity, you have to have a conservation, the wildlife conservation plan, and that plan has been built with the consultation of the forest department. So you need to allocate money for conservation of these species which are found in the area where you are working. Land degradation is another thing. When you are constructing the roads, when you are constructing the new infrastructure, you are damaging to the land. You can use the topsoil which is coming from that operation, and you can reclaim and rehabilitate other sites with the help of this soil which is you are taking from that area. Now there is a lot of pressure, a lot of commitment has been asked to achieve the no net loss of biodiversity, which is very very challenging, but it can be achieved by implementing the mitigation hierarchy. Mitigation hierarchy is very simple approach that first you reduce your impact, second you try to reclaim your impact, and the third and the fourth that you do some of the offsetting. So first you avoid, then reduce and reclaim it, and you put the offsets for the conservation. The regulatory risk, when you are working in a forest area, you in if you are your operation size is big, you need to have the environment clearance, you need to have the forest clearance, and it is the regulatory risk that you must having the conservation plan, the biodiversity conservation plan, the wildlife conservation plan for that. The community unrest, one of the statistics show that if you see the forest map of India and if you see the mining map of India and the tribal map of India, you found these three maps are overlying to each other. So the people who are dependent on the forest, and if you are doing some activity, if you are cutting the forest, so definitely you need to think, you need to make the plan for their livelihood. You need to make initiative which can help in improving their livelihood. The CSR uh, Act and the CSR activities are aligned. And the Biodiversity Act is uh, aligned thinking the benefit sharing. So all these things basically help. On one hand, there is a risk to the community, and the other hand, there is a livelihood generation for these people. And the branding is overall that the companies who are doing the things responsibly, the people respect and regard. And with their name, the people support that they have experience with this organization. If this organization is working, so definitely people believe, oh, this is the correct organization. In terms of the news, the people believe that the BBC has given some correct news. So this is only the brand has been built, similar kind of brand among the corporates who are responsibly working. Can we go to the next slide, please? So if there is any question, I will take a pause for a minute.
In fact, there is a question, sir. So the question is again by Manaswi Kiran. It is on industrial infrastructure development. Sir, can you share your opinion on industry and infrastructure development because it has large impact on environment? How they can be streamlined?
So, as I explained you that first we need to understand that what are the baseline. First, we need to understand the scope of the business or the infrastructure which is coming up. So, until and unless we are having, in India, we call this the environment impact assessment. If we do the environment impact assessment and if we do the holistic integration of understanding that if we are constructing a road, it is not just impacting it is not just cutting off the trees, it is not just the people are going to be impacted. Definitely it is impacting the hydrogeology of the area. Definitely it is impacting the population migration. It definitely there will be a economical growth of the area, but there is a pollution. So if we are considering and holistically we are planning all these things in our document, so it is called the order of magnitude if I talk the international terminology. So uh, if the conceptualization of the plan is happening and I am doing the order of magnitude, then I am doing a pre-feasibility, then I am doing a feasibility study of a project, then we will in a better position and we will in a clear position that whether our activity is going to have a long-term impact and how we are going to be mitigated.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We will. There are no further questions. We can continue, sir.
So these are some of the initiative. And before, can we go to the next slide, please? So now it is something that this is a dictionary definition of ecological restoration. The intentional activity that initiate or accelerate the recovery of the ecosystem with health, integrity, and sustainability. It is called the ecosystem restoration. So very simply, it is not something that I'm doing that I'm putting some plants and I'm saying that, oh, it is a ecosystem restoration. No, it is not. There are some basic principles. So it is not that apple may be useful for you, but for my friend, the orange will be useful for him. So the basic principles need to be implemented or need to be evaluated before talking about the ecological restoration. Selection of the site, as uh, one of the colleague has asked, that how we can have an integration about our activities and the impact. So this is something that the selection of the site. So if we are selecting a site for our business, we need to understand that this not in a pristine area. It is not going to impact the pristine area. Government of India has taken initiative. They have made a no-go map of India. So the area which are having a very high value of biodiversity or the ecosystem, these areas are not allowed to do the economical activities. Only activities which cannot be done any other place, just like mining is the activity, because mining resources are very in an area which are just having the mining resources, but the resources in a situation which is common. So again, the mining activity will not be allowed. The ecological history. So we need to understand what was there in the past. All talk about the Himalaya as a fragile ecosystem. When I did my PhD on Himalayas, since last 20 years, I am listening about the Himalaya as a fragile. But now I am seeing the impact of this fragility, that landslides are happening, several new things are happening, which is now very dangerous for the Himalayan ecosystem and the people who are living there. Reference of the ecosystem. So we need to consider that if this ecosystem is having these positive impact, so it is not essentially that it will be replicated to the other part. So it is an example that you have done some ecosystem restoration in a desert area. So similar kind of activity could be successful in a in the mountain area. No, it is not the case. Can we go to the next slide, please? So now it is for us. I think we should all proud. We should be thankful to the Almighty that this COVID-19 last 2 years we are seeing so many people, so many friends has died, and still we are fit, still we are alive. So we must be thankful for it. The challenges and the opportunities are in the time and our thinking. When we are thinking that we are contributing towards it, and if we are thankful to the Almighty, so this is, I have shared how the biodiversity loss is happening globally. Now this is a moment for us that we can grow forest, we can do something, we can rewild our garden, we can do some activity which can help in improving the biodiversity. So we need to consider now 3 R's. As a student of environment or sustainability, you perhaps read reduce, reuse, and recycle. Now there are three more R's are there, that we reimagine, recreate, and restore. So how we can do all these things? These are very simply we can do it. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the first important thing is engaging the community. How we can engage the student, the researchers, the villagers, wherever we are. The plantation is one of the exercise. I think since 1972 we are celebrating the World Environment Day. Now in the last 10 years, I have seen there is a lot of attraction, a lot of people now engaging World Environment Day. So plantation is one of the activity most of the time we have done when we are celebrating the World Environment Day. There are other conservation activities. We can promote the indigenous species which are locally available. So now there is a lot of focus by the people that how we can help and promote the indigenous knowledge which is available. We can promote the organic farming, the less use of the pesticide. We can help in development of areas where we can improve and contribute for the fodder and the fuel, the communities who are dependent on it, so that can help in reducing the pressure on the forest. We can initiate agroforestry agriculture, which is not the new word, but last in last 40 years in India it has got a good success, but still there are a lot of opportunity to some of initiative around the agroforestry as a rotational land. So these are again the things that wherever possible, we have control and regulate such kind of activity where there is a rotational of the forest is happening. Backyard medicinal garden, it is something very very unique, common. Now many people are engaged in it. This COVID-19, the people when they were at their houses and they are having the land available or space available, they have created the medicinal garden. Other interventions like you can create the awareness session similar kind of this session. And the fire management, it is another thing that you perhaps read recently. The forest fires globally has been happening in India also, but recent fire happened in Uttarakhand which were very bad. And still in the winter season people are finding because there is a less moisture, and the dry leaves caught the fire easily. Can we go to the next slide? So those who are attending this session, my suggestion, these are my some of the recommendation for you. Please join some nature club. Online nature clubs are available. You can join wherever you are. Do some plantation in which area you are, so which can attract the butterflies. I can share some of the concept how you can create the butterfly garden. So concept is simple. Just you put the nectar plant, host and host plant. So the nectar plant attract the birds, and the host plant, these the butterfly lives. You can visit and you can protect the natural habitat around it. Take a walk, conserve the water wherever you are. Use the principle of reduce, reuse, recycle. Increase your awareness about the biodiversity. Then you will appreciate that how much important is the biodiversity. So many of you seen the kingfisher. This is a bird. It is a clear indicator if it is found in your area that the water in your area is clean. How you can connect this? Because the kingfisher catch the fish. He can catch the fish only when the water is clear. So if water is clear and the fish is in the pond, then only you find the kingfisher in your area. The bird nest, the in the summer season, you perhaps find there is a lot of scorching heat, so you can put some of the feeders. You can put some of the nest in your balcony if you are not having a space. So these are the 10 actions you can take for conservation. Can we go to the next slide? There are some initiatives which are very simple. So you perhaps know, when we do the mining, there is an impact. The waste dump has been come, and this is again related to the SDG, the Agenda 2030, the SDG 15, and again it is aligned with the national biodiversity target. So we are having 12 national biodiversity target which have come from the HE targets, the Convention on Biological Diversity framework, the post 2020 commitment. So again, you can see this picture that how well you can conserve the soil if you are reclaiming and rehabilitating. Can we go to the next slide, please? Simple afforestation program, and which is not difficult for the institute or the organizations which are working in an area. With the help of community, with the help of forest department, you can also do similar kind of initiative. You can see that you can create some very good plantation around your colonies wherever you are, and that can be converted into a jungle, into a forest, which will provide clean oxygen to you. It will help and play as a watershed for the water. Can we go to the next slide, please? Miyawaki, it is again a buzzword. We are doing this thing almost more than 15 years, but now because of awareness among the people, many people are doing. It is nothing. It is a dense plantation, and it is a sustainable kind of plantation. The area, the spaces, especially in urban places, when we do not have sufficient places, we can do such kind of plantation, and it will help in increasing the forest cover. These are the sustainable places and sustainable spaces. Can we go to the next slide, please? Water rejuvenation. So this is we have done across our location, again restoring the reclaimed areas. So you can do the rainwater harvesting wherever you are. So again, engaging with the local communities, engaging even in the institute, there are the spaces I know you can have some wastewater generated. You can treat that wastewater, put it such kind of water bodies, make the wetland by putting the grasses on the culture. So that will create a very good infrastructure, the natural infrastructure for cleaning the water. Can we go to the next slide, please? Birdish nesting, another very interesting initiative we have done. So the area and the space, the habitats has been lost because we are cutting the trees. We can put similar kind of nest. You can go on internet and you can buy such kind of boxes, and these boxes you can install, which can help in conservation of birds in your area. Another very important, can we go to the next slide, please? So another very important initiative, the awareness and the awareness. I more emphasis give the awareness. As much as we are aware about the biodiversity, as much as we are aware about the knowledge and the things which the God has provided us, we will help in conservation of it. Until and unless we know the importance of the snakes, snakes are very important for our ecosystem. If we know the importance of the snakes, we will not kill them, although they are the poisonous, but from their poisonous, the drugs for the cancer has been made. That is the reason that if we know something about the medicinal plants, if we know something about the butterfly garden, if we know about the nakshatra garden, so all these things are helping in conservation of biodiversity we are implementing. And again, these are aligned with the SDG 15, and these are aligned with the National Biodiversity Target of India. Can we go to the next slide, please? So awareness among the people. So this is something that where possible, please try to share your knowledge, try to tell the people the importance of it. The vulture are some of the very beautiful and important for our ecosystem. So there are a lot of work and the research has been done. I was involved in establishing a safe vulture zone in central India, and we have done a lot of research. Time is limited, so just I am telling you one story in a brief words, that the population of vultures has reduced in last 2 decades, and the number of rabies cases has increased drastically in last 2 decades. And the reason was that vultures were eating the dead animals. the dogs were now eating these dead animals, so their population has increased and the cases of the rabies has increased. When the conservation of vulture put in place, it is a business model where we are conserving the bird, where we are get rid of many of the diseases. You perhaps not listen or heard about the chikungunya and many other diseases. Now these are common because vulture has vanished. Can we go to the next slide? So just I am recapping. I have explained you about the dangerous decline of the nature, how quickly these species are vanishing, and we are one of the species. So definitely we will also vanish if we will not take corrective action. The climate change is another very important phenomena is happening. So there is a debate. The climate change is happening because of industrialization or because of loss in biodiversity. So we need to think and debate on it. I talk about the Agenda 2030, the SDGs. I also discuss about some very important initiative which you can take yourself and conserve the Mother Earth. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are my contact details. I will be happy to connect you any of the communication medium. And if there is any question, I will be happy to address. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing your vast knowledge on biodiversity, climate change, and also the sustainable development goals, and what are the initiatives taken at the Tata Steel Industries. So, thanks on behalf of ENVIS IAC research partner. I appreciate your efforts and also the sharing your knowledge. So, there are two questions actually. I will just read out. So one question is from Manasvi Kiran. Can you highlight whether Miyawaki can provide same services as compared to the natural forest or the afforested sites?
So, Mansvi, your question, I just want to tell you, Miyawaki is not the recommended practice. Basically, this is a practice which has been originated in Japan. You perhaps know Japan is not having sufficient land. So if you are not having a sufficient land, then you can go for the Miyawaki. And Miyawaki is basically a process in which what is happening in India, and the reason I understand your question is that we are not using a diversified the species. I recommended about 140 species need to be used in a Miyawaki plantation. But what is happening in India? People are using 3 or 4 species, which are not utilizing the ecological values which are generally happen. The method of Miyawaki is that first you create a nursery, first you create the seedlings, then you have planted. So but these 3 steps are missing. We are just investing the money and putting it. That is the reason the natural forestation is giving more services and values in comparison to the Miyawaki.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is a question from Prasanna. In recent day, MOEF released Forest Report 2021. It says forest cover has increased, but all we are talking about the large scale degradation of forest. Which one is correct?
So have you read the report? If you see the report, there is a definition given by the government. So in Constitution of India, and if you see the Forest Act of India, there is a definition of the forest. So the Forest Survey of India has considered and given the caveat in the beginning that which are the area they consider as a forest. We know this is a land degradation is happening. If it is not notified or if it is not a forest declared by the government, so it will not consider as a forest. So that is the reason there is a variation. The people are talking in the report and what is the other people are talking in terms of the forest.
Okay. In fact, this is not a question. This is a kind of appreciation. from Manasvi Kiran again. Ecological restoration is a long-term vision that each company need to focus. Thanks for letting us know the initiatives at Tata.
Thank you, Mansvi.
Okay. So looks like there are no more questions. So I will just ask once again, if there are any questions, please post in the chat box so that we will try to address it. So we will wait for a half minute, sir. Then we can wind up, sir. If you have any questions, please post in the chat box. I request participants, please post your questions. If you have any questions, please post in the chat box so that we will try to get it clarified from the expert. Yeah, there is a question from Dr. Divya Soman. Sir, do you have any initiatives on carbon credits?
Thank you, Dr. Divya, for this question. So we are working on this carbon stock. So I have shared you one picture. So we are having a 30-year-old plantation. So now we are trying to evaluate that how we can register that project under the carbon credits. So nature-based solution, the research has been done globally, and we found the nature-based solution are much efficient than the other things with whatever we are doing for reducing the temperature of Mother Earth.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Looks like there are no more questions. So I thank participants for actively sharing their views and as well as questions in the chat box. So I expect their participation in the coming webinars also. So NV Center at Indian Institute of Science conducts the regular webinars on under the theme of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, which is a initiative of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. So this initiative mainly help to exchange the knowledge on environment as well as the culture as well as sports. So under this initiative, we are regularly conducting so many webinars. So today we have with us is Dr. Hussain, who is very eminent biodiversity conservationist. So I thank on behalf of ENVIS, Indian Institute of Science, for letting us know his vast experience and also the initiatives which are taken in the Tata Steel factory. So again, on behalf of the participants as well as Indian Institute of Science, I thank you so much for participating, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bharat. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. So, participants, please subscribe for the channel. If there are any further webinars, we will let you know in the our YouTube platform as well as we will share in the email. So, I look forward for your active participation in the coming webinars. Thank you so much.